Hey everyone, how we doing today? This is James Sweeney, aka SplitSuit, and welcome back to another video. And as part of the Ask SplitSuit a Question series, a bunch of people asked hand history questions. This one actually came privately via Facebook. And Michelle prefaces the hand by saying, "Hi James, would you like to review a kind of aggressive bluff I pulled off today? I think I made a good play against a tag in a broken game situation, but I would like to get advice from you if that play will be profitable in the long run." Okay, so this hand was played at Tuna Limit Online. There's a 1 cent ante, and it's a broken down 9 max table that is now playing 3-handed. So now you're all caught up. Here we are. Fold. Here decides to attack from the small blind. Fine with that if you think you can generate some folds. Don't get a fold, but that's of course going to happen from time to time. End up flopping unders and a gut shot. Here decides to check, faces a bet, and goes for a check raise. So at this point, I would always ask why we're doing this, what the thought process is, and of course, how it's going to make us any money. Okay, so I want to talk about this for a second because I think this is kind of important. And I think I've said this thought process before, but if not, I'll share it again. So when you're playing 9-handed or full ring games, you can expect some people to fold. When you're playing 6 max games, you can expect few people to fold. When you're playing heads up or 3-way games, you can expect no one to fold. And what I really mean by that is that in full ring games, yeah, you can get people to relinquish equity a lot more easily, but as there's fewer and fewer players dealt into the hand, it's much more difficult. Players get much stickier, and rightfully so. It's really difficult to hit a hand, and when there's fewer players to contend with, ranges become really, really wide, and again, we're back to it's really difficult to have a real hand. So what I mean by that is that by doing this, I don't really expect many folds, right? If he has overcards, he's coming after us. If he has a pair, he's not folding. If he has a draw, he is not folding. So I don't see this check raise doing much right this moment. That inherently can be okay if you have a future plan. You're like, okay, well, he's going to call the check raise a lot, and I can double or triple barrel him off a ton of the time, and you have that plan. Okay, I'm not going to say as much about that. But what I'm going to say is this. If you're putting this person on a draw, and in the comments it sounded like he thought that there were draws very, very possible here, and I definitely agree. This is a middling board. I assume that this person's probably going to 3-bet a lot of the good stuff pre-flop, which means that when they get here, they're going to have things like Queen Jack, and they're going to have like 10x and 8x type hands, and be through this board of like an 8-7. AK a lot of hands that aren't folding, or things that have overcard potential like Ace Jack that's not going to fold getting 2.5. So ultimately you shouldn't expect many folds here, and you have a terrible, terrible hand. I mean, you have like no chance in hell in this situation. Even worse, yes, you have a gut shot, but you're drawing to the bottom side of a 4-straighter, right? Like that is like the worst possible gut shot we could possibly have. So I don't really love this, and your hand kind of sucks. There's not a lot of ways for you to do well here, unless you have some like huge reads or information, which I didn't really get. Yes, this person's a tag, but that doesn't mean that I think they're just going to start like folding equity super liberally in a three-way pot. I'm sorry, 3-handed pot. So I just don't see this working out. I would actually rather just check fold here. You have a really, really bad hand. I don't see much way to win this, and I think that making this check raise is going to be pretty disastrous without a large chunk of information that you may or may not have, but I wasn't really getting that from the question. So we end up getting called, not shocking, and actually I think we're kind of lucky here because I expect to get 3-bet here a lot of the time. I expect to get 3-bet by draws, even decent draws with like overcards on them. Jack 9's going to be doing it. Obviously, big hands are going to be doing it, like 10-8 and even 10x I expect to do it. So this is just the kind of situation where I actually think it's kind of lucky that we even got to actualize any bit of our equity. I really expect to get 3-bet here a pretty large chunk of the time, just given the exact texture. And the only last little bit I want to say here is that I love the fact that you're being aggressive, and I love the fact that you're being creative, and I love the fact that you're probably trying something a little bit different. I love all of that stuff. My only thing is just you have to be really careful with the textures. You have to be really careful with who you're doing it against. And if you're going to do it and you're not expecting many outright folds, make sure you have that plan. Not saying stop being aggressive, not by any stretch of the imagination. Just make sure you're picking the exact right spots. So in this situation, we end up picking up a kind of nut card for bluffing, but it's going to be kind of weird in this situation. And here decides to go for the double barrel. Again, if you're going to go for the check raise, I'm not shocked that you're going for this. Just make sure that you have a plan, because I'm not shocked when I get called here. Like, I expect to get action here a lot of the time and be put to a test to fire the third one. And this again goes back to what I mentioned on the flop. Like, I just don't expect that when we're playing three-handed that anyone's going to relinquish a pair at any point in the hand, right? I just don't see it happening. So because of that, I think it's going to be difficult to triple barrel here, unless it's like maybe a god king or something like that, and maybe we can get him to consider folding like fourth or fifth pair. But shy of that, I'm not really shocked when we end up getting called all the way down here and shown like 7-8. So 10 on the river, pretty bad card because that pairs the board and makes things pretty difficult. And I expect that obviously if Pant has a 10, never folding, I expect that if they have a pair, they feel even more comfortable now with the board paired and all the draws bricked off. So I think at this point, if we bet like Hero did, the only thing we're getting to fold is like Queen Jack, Jack 9, and probably about it. I don't really expect any pairs to fold. I don't think we're getting fold enough from the range as a whole. I think that this is just spewing money. And yeah, it's not the greatest river card in the world, but we kind of knew that the runoffs weren't going to be like super favorable for us. So because of that, not super in love with this, end up getting the fold, get a little lucky there, which is fine, but again, don't dig into the results too heavily, focus more on the line itself, making sure that it was logical. Again, I'm kind of shocked that we didn't get 3-bet on the flop. I really expected to get 3-bet there a pretty large chunk of the time. And like one of the things people say is, oh, I check raise and I thought there were a lot of draws in his range. But one thing you have to think about is like people are pretty amped nowadays to like 3-bet and play draws really aggressively. So if you're in a situation where you're check raising and that draw is getting aggressive over the top of you, they're not allowing you to actualize any of your equity, and it takes away a large, ability for you to win a pot. So at least consider those kind of things when you're assigning ranges and getting aggressive and going for check raises. And again, texture is going to be the name of the game when it comes to trying to get aggressive and making sure you're finding textures that are good for it. And I'd say this one was probably not the best for this play. So Michelle, thanks for the great hand, and if you or anyone else has a poker-related hand or question, feel free to leave it on our Google Plus page. Leave a link for that in the description box, and also please make sure to like and subscribe if you're enjoying this type of video. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to let me know. Otherwise, good luck out there, and happy grinding.